I don't know what I did to deserve 5 letters from Charles, the snail mail guru. If you haven't seen the first video I did about him, I will put it clicky click. I've written Charles several letters this year, so maybe these are responses. I'm assuming they're probably responses, and I'm just gonna go through it. I may not read you every single one because this video will be forever, but I will read you the snippets that feel the most right. Says Sara, the quote at the start of this card came from my process binder. Several years ago, I made it a habit to walk up to a bookshelf, close my eyes, and let my hand find a book. I repeated this 2 more times. Then I opened each book to a random page and found a quote on that page worthy of keeping. Then I typed all 3 quotes, printed them, dated them, and put them in the process binder. I have no idea why I called it process. When writing letters, I would sometimes open the process binder randomly, pick one of these quotes on that page, and make it the topic of a letter, as I did today. The binder has been buried under some papers in a bookshelf for a couple of years. Today I retrieved it. I will try to keep it more out in the open for possible use. Please do not be alarmed that you're receiving multiple letters from me in a row. This is something I do occasionally, write a person several letters so that they keep coming day after day. One time, one of the people I write received 7 letters in one day. I was inspired by seeing pictures of your shop and hearing of your devotion to snail mail. You have become my demigoddess of paper mail, and your shop a sacred shrine to the art and discipline of the pen, ink, and paper universe. Charles. This is a good day. This is a really good day. Sara, thanks for the cool snail mail introductory card you sent with your last mailing. I took the opportunity to check out your webpage. Really well done. Congratulations. I attempted to email my congratulations, but was somehow foiled by the universe. I guess it's my fate to forever fail from joining the social media world. Snail mail is better. In return, I am sending you a copy of the Seattle Times article that appeared soon after my Creative Mornings appearance. Not sure if you ever saw it or not. 2 updates to that article. Here's the tea. Oh my gosh. I have now mailed about 8,000 cards and letters to the 100+ people on the list. Also, instead of just using one of my 30 dictionaries for letter topic ideas, I select randomly 3 books from my personal library, 12,000 volumes. Open to a random page, read, and take my topic for the next letter from that reading. I've gone through about 3 canopies since then. Over the years, they are torn by crows or blown down by really heavy winds and are ripped by the surrounding vegetation. For the first time in many years, I am not teaching any classes this summer, which means I'm having 4 months off. It took me a couple weeks to adjust to this idea, but I'm now going strong with reading, class planning for the autumn, writing, yoga, reading poetry aloud, etc., etc. Your shop looks amazing, so bright and colorful and full of creative designs. Way to go, shopkeeper. You've taken on about 4 new dimensions in my mind, which definitely puts you up in the top rung of interesting people I know. Charles. Here's the article. I will find it online and link it below so that you can read it as well. Just imagine how many tens of thousands of years Homo sapiens have been struggling to come to terms with grief. It is such a powerful human emotion. How did we ever find words to begin to express it? And how do we heal? How do we place it in the totality of our experience so that we can make some sense of it, if that's even possible? Shakespeare spoke of it often. Grief is best pleased with grief's society. Everyone can master grief, but he who has it. Moderate lamentation is the right of the dead, excessive grief the enemy of the living. Humans grow grief. We are such a violent species. How many years without wars in the past 5,000? I've recently visited the graveyard in the tiny town, population 498, where I grew up, in rural northern Missouri. 100 tombstones announce old friends, neighbors, and classmates. 100 more ancient stones, moss-covered, have infants planted underneath. Grief is, I believe, the distant cousin of ecstasy. They define each other. They both allow me to honor this strange play being acted out on our tiny planet, as we circle and circle in the surrounding darkness. My brother's last words to me. Do not weep that it is ending. Be glad that it ever happened. Okay, I wasn't going to read this one out loud, but it's awesome. Dear Sara, I've been listening to jazz quite a bit since about 1958, or about 60 years. I played an alto sax for several years, and my hero of that instrument was Paul Desmond, who played alto with the Dave Brubeck Quartet. There was a jazz station in Kansas City at the time, and I was more into that music than the newly emerging rock and roll craze. In 1959, I bought a trip to Chicago to the Playboy Jazz Festival. I earned my own money hauling hay at 2 cents a bale and took a train with about a dozen other jazz fans, mostly African American and all much older. I stayed at the Hilton, where the festival was centered, and took a taxi each day to the huge auditorium where the concert was staged. About 30 of the greats in jazz performed, including Louis Armstrong, Count Basie, Dave Brubeck, June Christy, Miles Davis, Duke Ellington, Ella Fitzgerald, Coleman Hawkins, Stan Kenton, Jimmy Rashing, Oscar Peterson, Nina Simone, Joe Williams, plus a dozen more top artists. Holy crap, that concert! What? To be present to so much greatness in so short a time was, what can I say, astounding, inspiring, mind-blowing, crazy fun, and more. At the post parties at the Hilton, I got to stand next to all those demigods of jazz and hear them talking. For a 16-year-old from the farm, you can imagine. Before every one of my classes at Cornish, I played jazz, so when the students arrive in the classroom, the space is filled with sounds of some of the great improvisers of the 20th century. I am no jazz aficionado, not knowledgeable about much jazz history, but for my second semester class, I do present a short cursory history of jazz and rock and roll as well. Here's my line about jazz. When I listen to great jazz, I understand something about life that cannot be found anywhere else. There is so much humanity in jazz. The human spirit sings in such a way that we could all understand cool and how deep that lies in our history and our souls. Charles. One of the things I love most about Snail Mail is that it gives us a place to tell our stories. And I think storytelling is so much of what it means to be human. Something within me wishes to be present in all of history, to know the complete human drama, the tragedy and triumph, the common tenderness, the wonder of stars when they were gods. I am a part of all the past. I can embrace the whole all at once like a painting or a statue. In my imagination, I do not hear the work as it unfolds, as it must play out, but I hold it all as one block, so to speak. And when I succeed in this, super hearing the entire assembly, it is the best moment. Mozart. From this hour on, space as such and time as such shall recede to the shadows, and only a kind of union of the two shall retain significance. Minkowski. I live in two worlds of the imagination, the commonly accepted Newtonian world and the world of Einstein's space-time confluence. It sounds as if Mozart's genius allowed him to know both worlds at once, but my poor brain limps along, stooping here and there to pick up a fragment of the painting that Mozart saw whole. In meditation, I get brief glimpses into a world without language, a world without edges, the polarized world where I can know anything at all by comparison or by contrast with something else. But what could all this matter? It matters because I do understand in some small ways how I am trapped by language. There is experience, and then there are words I use to name it. I repeat the same words, the same stories over and over. I seek to know things as they are. Then perhaps I can speak to reality. This is an embarrassment of riches in Snail Mail today. A very quick aside. As I was looking for tags to add to my posts, some predictive typing suggested opening letters ASMR. If you know what ASMR is, it's basically, how do I describe it quickly? Maybe just Google it. It's basically like that tingly feeling you get in your scalp when there's something that's just satisfying, like sometimes it's caused by like the sound of someone whispering, or I don't know, like wind in the trees. There's all these like soft sounds that can create that feeling, and I totally get it. I don't watch ASMR videos because it just comes in the world to me, but that sound, I'll do it again. I have lots. Apparently that sound is ASMR for some people, and you know, I don't hate it because more things to love about snail mail.
Snail Mail Superstar.